Well, I reject in one sense the notion that religion can be defined, because there is a notion of defining that presupposes some kind of an essence, and that has a Platonic ring that I don't accept, so that religion cannot be defined that way, okay? But obviously it's a word that we use widely, and we need to explain what we mean when we use it. Wittgenstein has talked about family resemblances, and I think there is a family resemblance in the way most people use the word, and we can identify some of the elements that lead us to call something a religion or religious. I really try myself to avoid the noun, because it so easily suggests that there is an essence, whereas the adjective is not quite as much inclined that way. Also, if you use the word religion, you almost inevitably think of this as a genus of which there are species. And I don't think it works that way. And if you think it's a genus of which there are species, then you probably will compare the various species in terms of how adequately they express what one has put into the genus. And that whole approach seems to me to have done a great deal of harm. So I just prefer not to speak of a religion, but to say there are various traditions which are more or less religious, and then say, well, what does it mean to be religious? And I don't want to be tight in listing the elements, but I would say when people say something is religious, there's usually some notion that there are realities that are not accessible to the senses. They don't have to be gods. In Buddhism, it may be rather a particular mode of being internally, but there is also usually a strong sense upon human internality and what goes on in the life of a person, as opposed to simply public behavior. Usually when people speak of something as of a movement as being religious, it will have some cultic expressions, either something like worship or something like meditational practice. Usually some group activities will be part of that. Normally, if we use the word religion, there is a sense of its extreme importance, that it somehow is more encompassing or goes deeper than the practical matters of every day. I think we could go on with these kinds of comments about what we find. To develop such a list would be to actually study many, many books and say, okay, where does the word religion or religious appear? What seem to be the major foci? But then it's very important to say, when you ask, is Buddhism a religion? Well, it has some of the marks that people look to, but others are noticeably lacking. And you can say the same thing about Judaism, or you can say the same thing about any of the things that are called religions. And they may have, if you list 5 characteristics that lead people to use the word religious or religion, one may have 3 of them and another may have 3, and they may only overlap on 1, so that it's very important to avoid the notion that religion is something or other. I'm also rather unhappy about the use of the term religious studies as a way of describing this activity within university. My impression is that the studies involved are not religious at all. For the most part, they're extremely secular. And they are united, if they have any unity at all, by virtue of their subject matter. So that it leads to the reification of religion. And I as a Christian theologian, I'm really doing things that are very, very different from religious studies. I'm interested in dealing with whatever seem to me to be the most important issues in life and in the world, not from a neutral point of view. I don't think there are any neutral points of view, but from a Christian point of view.